All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest video. So today I'm going to be talking about the fact that humanity actually has one shared core wound, and that all of our false beliefs, all of our painful beliefs, all of our painful experiences, all the things that we're trying to do in order to find safety and love and like everything. Basically, I'm going to give you my grand theory of everything today and why we all have the patterns and loops of behaviors that we have, the traumas that we have, the patterns and loops of traumatizing choices we seem to make for ourselves over and over, um, and like everything that we're going to for spirituality, and that we're going to or that we're going to spirituality for, that we're going to self-help for, that we're going to self-improvement for, why we're doing these things and what we're really looking for and how we can actually find that. Okay? Because it is true that we have trauma, and it's true that we have these faulty and false beliefs and painful beliefs about ourselves. And it's true that we have painful beliefs that are true and that we're not going to convince ourselves of something different because it isn't something different. We're going to embrace reality for how it really is, and that freedom comes from learning to be with the traumatizing aspects of reality and learning to process that and move through that versus looking for it to be different. Okay? So I want to start with just the question that I got that kind of prompted this, and then we can go into my answer. Okay, so the question was, so this idea um, that we unconsciously create the traumatic experience so we can have a different outcome and heal them. What if you get stuck and only get the same outcome and more evidence of your negative beliefs, and especially get re-traumatized versus healed? And they essentially get re-traumatized versus healed. For example, we attract unavailable people who don't love us for the way that we are or the way that we want to be loved, and they only give crumbles and reinforce the belief that we're not wanted and not good enough. I used to believe that if you just love yourself, then enough for healing, and that would be enough for healing, and then you don't need love and validation from the outside. But that seems to just be a nice theory. Some can love themselves unconditionally and be there for themselves and hold space for inner child, but a romantic connection can activate the deepest core wounds. And it feels like you're back to square one, even with more trauma and more evidence why no one should want you or love you. And this question again, like, I understand, right? So looking at relationships and looking at this core wound that like a lot of people carry around, that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love, I'm not worthy of love, being like a core false belief that we think is a false belief that we all carry around. And I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love, I'm never going to have what I want, I'm never going to be able to create the thing that I want, right? I'll never have the healthy body that I want, I'll never have the healthy relationship that I want, I'll never be able to work and have the career that I want, I'm not going to be able to we all have. And then like the fear of death, like I'm gonna die, I feel like I'm dying in what I'm doing, I feel like I'm never gonna feel safe, all of these things. And what I want to say is like, right, like I understand the kind of life coachy, like, let's question your false beliefs, is that really true, is that really true in reality, when you're getting at your core wounds and your core false beliefs. And I promote that stuff, and I believe that that's really important work to be doing, is to absolutely question our beliefs, question, is what we believe true, is it really true, is it a trauma response from our childhoods where we didn't have control and now we have control, is it stories we're telling ourselves, and all these things. But ultimately, I want to say this, okay? All of our false beliefs, all of our painful beliefs are actually, in a sense, our childhood solutions to the actual core trauma that we've all experienced. That your painful belief around your relationships, your painful beliefs around your body, your painful beliefs around your jobs, your painful beliefs around your career, your painful beliefs about whatever it is that you think, if I could just fix this thing in my life, if I could just fix this area of my life and make this area of my life better, all the pain in my life would go away. And then we go about trying to change that area of our life. We go about trying to fix that area of our life, our relationships, our bodies, our jobs. We're doing external work, we're doing internal work, we're doing questioning, we're doing all these things, and it's great. And then we keep ending up having the same experience over and over again. It seems like no matter how much we change our thoughts, no matter how much we change our perspective, no matter how much we change our perception, it doesn't actually change the external environment. It doesn't change the reality that we're experiencing. And I think a lot of people get to a point where they're just like, why isn't this working? Like, it seems like I do love myself more. It seems like I do respect myself more. It seems like I do want different things. And yet I keep having the same experience over and over again. And it's painful. And I don't understand why I can't change my reality. And even for a little period of time, we might have times where we do change our reality for a little bit, and things are a little bit different, and things are a little bit unique, and we go in a different way, and then we sabotage ourselves. And we think like, whoa, what the heck just happened there? Or we think we're doing something different. We really believe we're in a different relationship. We really believe we're doing something different with our bodies. We really believe this is the new, different job that's going to do it. And then we end up back where we've always been, and thinking like, whoa, I totally thought I was doing something different. I really thought I had questioned that. I really thought I had changed that. I really thought I had, self-empowered my way into something different. And then I ended up in the same place and I don't understand what's going on. So what I want to just say, the reason that we have these false beliefs, the reason that we have every painful belief that we have is not even necessarily because what we believe is wrong. It could be that, right, this is a childhood layering on top of the actual core trauma that we all face. Okay, so the actual core trauma that every human being is working with, and that is the reason for all of our pain, the reason for all of our struggles, the reason for all of our coping, self-sabotaging, scapegoating. That's the reason for all of our negative beliefs, our painful beliefs, our patterns, our loops. It all comes down to this one trauma. Okay? Which is, whenever in your life you started to realize that the world wasn't a safe place for you, that was your trauma. Meaning, we all, at some point, had our secure attachment with our caregivers broken. So that feeling that we were going to get our needs met, we were going to be understood, we were going to, because again, back up even more. I don't care how spiritual you are and how you like to paint this picture. It really doesn't matter to me how you see this. We are fundamentally biological life. And just like everything else in biological life, we want to grow. We want to express our genetic potential, our creative potential, our spiritual potential, whatever it is, however you perceive the human being to be a timeless, endless, vast, multiple lifetimes, your soul goes on and on and on. You want to see it like that? That's perfect. You want to see it like we're literally like just living this life and we have our specific DNA in this human incarnation with this consciousness that's animating this body, and then when this is over, it's over. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is, no, however you see humanity, however you see life, whether it goes on and on and on or it's finite and this is it, what life wants is to express itself. It wants to grow. Whether it's conscious life, like human beings and animals, or less conscious life, like plants and rocks. Like literally everything that can be considered a living thing, when it comes down to it, is wired for survival and evolution. And when we feel like we are being supported in our survival and our evolution, we feel good. And when we feel like we're being antagonized, or like we're not getting what we need, or like we're not going to get what we need, or like we're getting things we don't need, right? When there's any awareness in any part of ourselves that it's not safe for us to grow, we're not going to get what we want and what we need, we don't have what we want and what we need, we're in pain, we don't know how to get out, we're suffering, we don't know how to make that change. Because where does all pain come from? All pain is simply rooted in that which is inhibiting our growth, or inhibiting our capacity to see how reality actually is so that we can grow within it. And all pleasure comes from being able to grow, right? And even within consensus reality, the things that we find pleasurable when we're totally conditioned and in our conditioning are the things that we think make us acceptable and lovable and worthy, because in our childhoods we learned that acceptance of others equals survival. That when we were loved and taken care of by the adults in the people who were authorities over us, that they understood us and they provided us with our needs, and then we could grow and learn and evolve and become ourselves. And when they didn't understand us, when they antagonized us, when they took things that we needed away from us, when they didn't give us the things that we needed, we suffered. And so even when we're totally caught in our conditioning, pain and pleasure still comes from what we perceive to be the things that are going to lead us to being able to express ourselves. And the things that we perceive cause us pain are the things that we perceive are going to be the things that take away our capacity to live. And then that's where we get the duality of feeling like we don't feel good either way, when we're either living with our conditioning or we're trying to rebel from conditioning. Because when we're living the conditioning, a lot of the times what we're conditioned to believe is what is going to help us live, which is to fit in, is actually counter to our true selves and what would actually let us grow. So it feels painful to be in the consensus, while at the same time feeling good, because that to our nervous system feels like safety. And then when we rebel and we do something different, there's a part of us that feels liberated and free and excited to do that. And then another part, our nervous system, that feels like, nope, we're going to die if we do that. Because if we go outside of consensus reality, we're going to be rejected. And if we get rejected, we're going to die. And again, your brain may understand that's not true. Your adult mind might understand that. But your nervous system doesn't. Your nervous system was still programmed in your childhood from 0 to 7. And so there's still that nervous system part of you that's running the show. And that's where shame and guilt and blaming yourself and becoming rebellious or like completely not trusting anything that you read or anything that you see, and believing that everyone's against you and all these stuff, that's all trauma. That's all whatever you experienced in your childhood, however the authority figures in your life were, that painted what authority figures were for you forever. And then that's how you're going to be perceiving everything, probably, until you really start to like question what's going on. So this is the foundation of everything. We all had that experience where we realized at some point that life wasn't set up to perfectly support us. That we were going to be antagonized, that there's chaos, that there's things we cannot control, that there are things that no matter how hard we try and no matter what we do, there are systems in place. There are literal like human systems in place. There are natural systems in place. There are all of these things that inhibit us and that antagonize us. And in our childhoods, taking that chaos into account and then learning what we needed to learn from it to actually liberate ourselves was not possible because we didn't have the bandwidth, we didn't have the understanding, we didn't have the awareness, we didn't have the capacity to actually take empowerment for ourselves in our childhoods. Right? Because even if we realize, okay, the consensus reality of my parents, the consensus reality of my authority figures, whatever, is wrong, and it's counter to the truth of reality, we couldn't then be like, oh, it's okay then. I'll just rebel, or I'll just do my real thing, or I'll just do things my way, and that'll be fine. No, we didn't have the capacity to do that. We couldn't provide for ourselves. We didn't know how the world worked. The world was set up in a way that even if we did understand how it was, we didn't have the power to do what was truly in alignment with truth and not be completely destroyed by the consensus reality of everyone. Right? Like the systems are set up so that people who truly start to go outside of them, it's really hard, and you get really abandoned. And like the first thing that happens is all these wounds get triggered of the I'm going to be abandoned, I'm going to be alone, I'm going to be cast out, and if that happens, I'm going to die. And for a long time in human history, that was absolutely true. That trying to go out on your own was essentially a death sentence. And so, right, like we hear these stories of these spiritual people who go into the wilderness and face the demons. I believe that's an allegory for you at some point, if you really want to find freedom, you're gonna realize that you got to go out into the wilderness and make peace with the fact that life is not set up to perfectly support the human being. That right now we are still living in a pre-Galilean age is what I like to think of it as. We are still acting like the universe revolves around the earth. We are still acting like spirituality and reality and the truth of things revolves around the human being, as though everything is set up to support the human being. Like that's a lot of what spirituality is set up to be. That if the human being just does the right things, like here's follow the rule book, religion, new age religion, whatever, crystals, it's all kind of the same thing. If you just follow the rules, the universe, which is set up in the reflection of the human being, will support the human being. Or we have this idea that reality is a result of human consciousness, human observation, human participation, that it's all coming from us. And this is why we're getting so stuck. Because that foundational understanding that the universe is organized around the human being or from the human being is a massive oversimplification and misunderstanding of how reality is functioning. And this is why we're not making a lot of progress. Because we still keep trying to fit the universe into a human paradigm. And I hope that we're moving towards an understanding, a spiritual understanding, a metaphysical understanding, a scientific understanding, that humans are arising within reality. And we are a very small part of reality. It is not the other way around. Reality is not arising because of the human being. Reality is not arising for the human being. Reality is not arising around the human being or from the human being. We are a small part of it. It is not a reflection of us. We are a reflection of it. It is not a reflection of us. We are one little next evolutionary step, upbringing, upcrop of life itself. Okay? And life itself is ordered. and has a structure. Nothing is happening for no reason. The true chaos, from the ultimate perspective, doesn't exist. This is a cause and effect universe. Everything that's happening is a result, is an outcome of what came before. But what came before wasn't just what you ate for breakfast. What came before wasn't just what you were thinking about last month. What came before wasn't anything to do with you. What came before is all time and all space and everything that's ever happened within creation. You and what's happening in your life and what's manifesting in your reality right now is all a result of everything. It's literally a result of everything throughout all time and all space, because all of reality is connected. So like I said, if we were to be able to have a perspective of absolutely everything that's ever happened, we would see the structure of reality perfectly, and we would see that we could predict anything, because everything is just an evolution upon what has come before in the structure. Okay, but we don't have that perspective, and we're never going to have that perspective. We can never know all of history, all of the future, all time, all space, everything that's ever happened, like every butterfly wing that's ever flapped. And what we are going to come to, if we really want to understand what it's going to take to have peace as a human being, is that foundational trauma, that life is not safe for us, in the sense that it's not set up to perfectly just meet our needs. That womb of protection that we had, where we were perfectly provided for, we could just bounce around and grow. That was a temporary reality. And we may have had that a little bit in our childhoods, where our parents were really attentive to us, and they were, our caregivers were just like there for us and met all of our needs, and we didn't have to struggle and scream and all these things, and maybe we had a healthy constitution, and things were just kind of good. And then at some point, you got yelled at. At some point, you got rejected. At some point, you made a mistake and you didn't know how to fix it, and no one was there to help you. And over and over and over again, throughout our childhoods, that security that we were going to be okay, that security that we knew everything, that security that whatever need we had was going to be met, was getting broken and broken and broken and broken and broken. And what our childhood minds did was they started to connect it to, okay, well, I did this behavior and that got me rejected. So if I just change that about myself, I won't be rejected. And then when I'm not rejected anymore, we'll go back to getting that perfect, safe environment. My body is this way. And that got me rejected. That got me abandoned. This is the reason why. So we started to come up with these childhood reasons for why we were being rejected and abandoned. Because in our childhood minds, it was the being rejected and abandoned by the people who were our authority figures that was the existential crisis. We were safe until we had been abandoned. We were safe until we had been rejected. We had what we needed to grow and be healthy and happy, which is what we all want. As life, we want to grow. And that's when we started to come up with these painful beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of love. I have to change my body. I have to change my personality. This is not good about me. This is not good about me. I don't know. I made this mistake. I made this mistake. I made this mistake. And then we started to see chaos. We started to see people getting sick and not being able to know how to get better. We started to see people and ourselves make mistakes that led to pain that we then couldn't get out of. And we started to really see like, oh no, like there's actual chaos. Like That can't be good. That can't be right. And then we were indoctrinated into religion. We were indoctrinated into education. We were indoctrinated into governments. We were indoctrinated into media. And if you just do these things, right, just follow the rules of whatever the system is that you're in now, and that will get you perfect love and approval by God or by society or by whomever. And then when you have that perfect love, you will be safe again, because it's programmed into our nervous systems that getting what we need in order to grow, which is the real thing we want, comes from being loved and validated and understood and provided for from the outside. And that only gets taken away when we do the wrong thing or when we are the wrong thing. So this is why I say that your false belief, I'm not worthy of love, I'm not thin enough or pretty enough, I'm not productive enough, I'm doing it wrong, I'm gonna die, my body's not right, blah, blah, blah. These are all actually your childhood solutions to the actual core root trauma. These are the things that you're telling yourself, that if I just fixed this one thing, all the existential pain, the real pain that I don't even know that it's there, right? We're not aware of this. Most of us are not aware of this. You're going to have to do some real deep digging. And when you do, you will come to this conclusion that I'm telling myself that if I were to just get that perfect partner, get that perfect body, get that perfect job, get the right amount of money, get the security, if I were just to be understood, if the government would just become the thing that I think it needs to be, if the world structures were to become the way that I think that they should be, if everything out there were to change in this one way, I would finally be safe from all antagonism, and I would be liberated to be my true self. That's what it all boils down to. Your false belief that I'm unhappy because I'm not attracting the right partner, I'm unhappy because I'm not in the right body, I'm unhappy because I'm not in the right job, I'm unhappy because government is the way that it is, I'm unhappy because out there is some way that it shouldn't be, is again your solution. You're telling yourself that if that thing were to be fixed, my existential true pain, the true pain that I'm actually not supported and I don't have what I need to grow, would be taken away. So this is part of the reason why we continue. Okay, so now the other thing that you need to understand is that your programming from your childhood, how you relate, the people that you're attracted to, the unavailable people who treat you the same way that your parents treated you, essentially. The reason you keep going into those situations, the reason you're continually attracted to those people, is not because some higher purpose you're trying to do it different so that you can prove something different to yourself. No, the reason you're doing that is because to your nervous system, that's what it knows. It's really not a lot more complicated than that. It's not a subconscious, I'm going for this so that I can have a different result and prove to myself something different or heal it to fix it. No, it's you learned how to get your needs met in as well as you could within whatever the structure of your childhood was. So however your caregivers treated you, however society was for you, whatever you were indoctrinated that this is how you have to be and this is who you have to be, that's how you learn to get your needs met in the only ways you know how to get your needs met. So now in your adulthood, you're only attracted to those relationships because you know how to be in those relationships. You know who to be in those relationships. Even if it's totally uncomfortable and self-destructive and you see it, you're only attracted to those people over and over and over again because that's your nervous system's comfort zone. That's how your nervous system knows how to behave. That's how your nervous system knows how to get its needs met. And that's exactly it. Yeah. Eugene just asked a question. I'm going to get to it in a second. We continually sabotage our bodies. Say, like, we never actually figure out what our bodies really need. Because we don't know how to be a healthy person. We literally don't know how to get our needs met. How to be that person in that new reality where we don't have the nervous system comfort of, I know how to be a sick person. How you're living right now and the patterns that you're doing right now are actually your safety zone. This is how you comfort yourself. This is how you know how to get your needs met. And in order to become something different, in order to actually exist in a new reality, you're going to have to go against your nervous system, which is telling you, if I were to be with a different kind of partner, I don't know how to communicate with that partner. I don't know, like, right? I would have to not be manipulative. I would have to be, like, honest with my actual feelings and know what I actually want, instead of having this probably unconscious codependent dance that we do over and over and over again, because that's how we know to get our needs met. That's how we know what we're doing. Like, my husband and I have been through this, like, for 10 years of just learning and learning and learning what our patterns are, and our unhealthy ways of relating to each other that are based on, well, this is how I related to my mom, and this is how I related to my dad, and we're just treating each other like that. And learning how to see, okay, why am I treating you like that? Because I think that's how I get my need met. So what is the need that I have? Well, I don't even know what that is, right? I don't even know what's underneath that. So I need to, like, go in and be like, why am I treating you this way? Because this is what I want from you. But I don't feel safe enough to actually ask that of you. And what if you were to say no? What if you were to tell me you're not going to do that for me? And I don't know how to get that need met for myself, or I feel ashamed of that need, or I think that that's a bad thing, and I only know how to manipulate. And I'm not manipulating on purpose. But again, if we were to be in a conscious relationship where you're like, what do you want? Why are you being this way? I'm like, I don't know. So then we have to, like, completely rejigger and reprogram and bring to light all of these things that, again, go totally against our nervous systems. And then on the other side of things, if you were to actually be in a relationship with a conscious partner or an available partner, or if you were to change your body, because we've all done this. We've all, at some point, transcended the thing that we thought was our problem, and we fixed it. We lost the weight. We got the partner. We got out of the toxic job and got a different job. We got money. We got security. We got that thing we thought we were going to want. Every celebrity has told this story. They got the fame. They got the money. They got the success. And they were still unhappy. And the anxiety and the depression and the fear and the existential crisis got louder. And they felt more alone and more traumatized and more. And then eventually you sabotage it so that you can hold that again as the perfect heaven. Oh, I just have to get back there. And you forget that you had it and it didn't actually satisfy you. It didn't give you what you needed. It didn't actually make the pain go away because it didn't touch the trauma. You had the perfect partner and you still didn't feel safe. You had the perfect body and you still felt like life might be chaos. You had the job and it didn't feel secure because the reality is you're not. So the question is, if our core wound is that the world is not a perfectly safe place for us, and it sounds like reality is just inherently traumatic for all living forms, even if our caregivers and society were super conscious and nurturing, the world would still include the possibilities of disaster, animals, disease. Perhaps we might mitigate to a degree, but it sounds like there is no 3D life without trauma. The core wound is inherent to life itself. Exactly. Exactly. So adult spirituality is when we come to realize that because of our limited perceptions, And because we are arising within life that's already been taking place eons before we existed and will take place eons afterwards, we will never have perfect control. We will never have a perfectly safe environment in order to grow. That thing we're all looking for, the secure attachment, so we can feel like we're going to be safe, doesn't exist. Heaven doesn't exist. We're never gonna get there. And this is why I say the spirituality that I'm selling is the last kind of spirituality that anyone ever wants. I'll probably never be a famous teacher because I am not going to blow smoke up your ass and tell you that there's any, this is what you need to do, what you need to be, how you can get to a place where you will feel secure and safe and truly like you're going to be able to express yourself no matter what. Because, like, out there. Because that is never going to exist. Where our freedom actually lies is not that we don't have any power, that there isn't any safety, that we can't find expression. That's not true either. Because again, because we are a part of life, it's not inherently antagonistic to us, nor is it inherently perfectly supportive of us. We are just another step on the evolution. And it seems like life is learning from itself what does and doesn't work within the structure. And every variation has more and less natural success within the structure. So there are some people who are born into bodies that are just far more resilient than others. There are some people who are born into this culture that the thing that they're naturally wired for doing is what is currently viewed as valuable by society. And therefore, they're going to get more of their share of the resources. Some people are born into bodies that are inherently less structured. And there's just a genetic mutation that makes you less capable. And we, like I say, we're looking for the spiritual reason for why all of these things happen. And you're allowed to believe whatever you want. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just saying that's an observation we can make. That there are things that are just inherently harder for some people than others within the structure that exists. And we are never going to create an environment where it's perfectly supportive for all human individuals to perfectly meet their evolutionary potential. And accepting that some individuals' evolutionary potential isn't much. Things in nature go extinct all the time before human intervention. Entire species of things go extinct because they just don't fit the model, the structure. And so if we can kind of, again, like wrap our minds around that this reality that we're experiencing is learning from itself. And we are a part of that. We're a part of the grand experiment of just, this is life experiencing life and evolving in its way. But we seem to have a consciousness that allows us to observe pattern, that allows us to observe greater than ourselves understanding of reality. And we can start to understand the structure to a degree that gives us an evolutionary advantage. And we're doing that. That's literally what all technology, all medicine, all any kind of advancement that has improved the human being's capacity to survive is humans observing the structure and working it in a way so as to serve our being supported in our evolution. So like I say, at the same time as life not being designed for us, we have to assume that because we have arisen within it, there's something in us that is being supported by life. Because we are inherently one with it. There are parts of us that are in alignment with the structure, otherwise we couldn't exist. So when we feel sometimes like we're being led and we're being guided and we're being given exactly what we need that we didn't know we needed it, and then that, because yeah, you're connected to all things. Your life isn't just a result of the things that you're conscious of. You're taking part in a grand play that's orchestrating itself all around you. And you're occurring within it. And so there are going to be times where life just magically supports you. And it's not magic. It's alignment. You aligned with the structure of reality. And there are going to be times where it seems very antagonistic to you. And sometimes that's structure, and sometimes that's human structure, and sometimes it's a mix of both. So our real spirituality should be, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, because this is what's worked for me, about, first and foremost, helping us to reckon with this idea that no, we're not inherently safe. Life is not set up for us or against us. Life is not human-centric. It's not for you, it's not against you. It's structured, and you're a part of it. Your structure is inherently a part of it. And life might be learning from your structure all the things that don't work. Life is learning from your structure all the things that do work. That's why life continues to evolve and get more complex, right? Like the human being is the next level of complexity of every life form that's come before it. And we are not the ultimate. The human being is going to keep evolving. And evolving and evolving and evolving, and it might turn into a whole different species somewhere thousands of years down the road. Because it's evolution, evolution, evolution. Like we're seeing each generation has something that the previous generation didn't have. They're mutating. We're mutating. Like even looking at myself as someone with autism, maybe it's an up-level mutation. Because on some levels, it has given me many survival advantages. The way that my brain is structured and the way that I think and the way that I perceive, it protected me from being indoctrinated in a lot of ways. And it gave me the capacity to put things together and process in my frontal lobe rather than my limbic system, where other people couldn't. So maybe, like I say, it's a mutation. And maybe more and more and more people will be born with that mutation because there's some evolutionary advantage to it. Right? And so if we can just, like I say, from as a spiritual teacher, I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm not here to tell you how it works. I'm not here to tell you who you should, whatever. What I want to do is say, I recognize that you're a unique individual who has unique needs and a structure. And what I want for you is to witness that in yourself, to be able to identify your needs, to identify what it is that supports your growth, so that you can then take whatever adult steps you can take within the reality you exist within, which I don't promise you is perfect. And I don't promise you that everything that you need you will have access to, that you'll have access to right now or ever. But I can promise you that there's always an evolution that can be made. There's always a step that can be taken. And at the end of the day, if we can't change anything in our external environment, if we're in pain and we're struggling and we're suffering and we don't know what to do, what I know to be true is that when we make ourselves feel safe, we have the highest possibility of being able to understand whatever it is we need to understand in our current reality that enables us to take our next growth step that's actually available to us, which may not be the ultimate thing, which may not be the greatest thing, which is definitely not going to take us from suffering to bliss. But when we feel safe enough to just say, okay, perfect is probably not available. Absolute liberation is probably not available. But something is available. Just one little step is available. And like I say, it may be that we never get there, that we never reach our potential, that we never fully express. Maybe life isn't set up for that. But if we can have the capacity to say, I'm willing to learn from everything. I'm willing to just take whatever experience I'm having, whatever experience I'm in, and instead of making it right and wrong and good and bad and all of these things about me, that reality is happening to me because I'm being punished or I'm being rewarded. That these things are happening to me because I'm being good or I'm being bad, or it's my beliefs or it's not my beliefs. It's my thoughts or it's not my thoughts. It's like all this projection of me. This is all a cacophony of many, many, many things. And my conditioning is not my fault, and my programming is not my fault, and none of this is happening because of me. In the sense that I was born into the system. I was indoctrinated into the system. Now, where is my power within it? Where is my power within it? And sometimes our power within it is just to make ourselves feel comforted and safe that it's not our fault. That we're suffering and we're in trauma and we don't know what to do and we can't fix it and we can't get out of it. But we're not going to abandon and reject ourselves. Just that. Sometimes that's it. That's all we have. I'm not going to make this my fault. I'm not going to make it worse by telling myself that I could have known or been or done something different and it would have made this better. That's childhood, right? When we're in trauma, we want to find the answer. And most of us blame ourselves because that's the fastest and easiest way. If I can just figure out how this was my fault, then I can fix it. Because if it's all my fault, I have the perfect power and control to make it better. So that's natural, that's normal. But if we can start to understand that when we love ourselves safe in every situation, because to our nervous systems, we got to work with the nervous systems we have, which is love makes me feel like I'm going to get my needs met. Love makes me feel like I'm safe. Love makes me feel like I am living in that secure attachment world. And when I feel that way, my mind opens up, my heart opens up, my consciousness opens up, and allows me to take in more of the complexity of what's really occurring so that I can find my real power within it. So that's why I say, why do we keep getting in the same relationship over and over again? Because that's the one that your nervous system knows. And right now you don't feel safe enough to do something different. And are you really ready to let go of the idea that even if you got that loving, available relationship, it wouldn't actually solve the existential crisis that you're thinking that that relationship would solve right now? It's not about you not feeling good enough. It's not about you not feeling worthy of love. And this is what I discovered. When I first was like, okay, right, my main scapegoat was my body. Because I had been sick my whole life, I had been rejected, and I just wanted everything to be that if my body was healed, I would feel good. all my pain would go away. And I got to a place where I said, you know what? The reality is my body might never be good. I had this revelation, 2012. I've told the story a million times. I was like, right, I've been dieting, I've been doing all this stuff. I had been doing it for a decade at the time. And I felt like exactly what the question was. I had done all this stuff and all this work, and I had changed so much, and I just felt like I was at the beginning. And I sat there and I was like, I might never experience a different reality. I might never get there. I might be in pain and fat and puffy and all these things that I thought about myself for the rest of my life. So what am I going to do about it? Because I got to the point where I was just so sick of trying to fix it and ending up in the same place that I was like, I'm just going to accept this. I'm not going to try to fix it anymore. I'm going to accept that I'm just going to be sick and puffy and bloated for the rest of my life. So if that's true, I'm letting go of heaven. How can I make myself feel good anyways? That was the question. And that's what I think that's what jailbroke me out of everything. When I realized that I was like, the chaos is always going to exist. There are some things that I might not ever be able to fix. That's when I started to realize that like my trauma and the things that I really wanted and what was actually going on with me had nothing to do necessarily with the body. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out how to live within the chaos. How do I embrace this life that I have that is the reality of the life that I have? And so a lot of the things was like, wow, okay, I can see that now. The real thing was I didn't know how to be anyone other than the sick person. I didn't know how to say I needed a break unless I had a physical reason for it. I didn't know how to say I didn't want to do something. So I always had my body as a scapegoat. I had things I wanted to do, but I was way too afraid to do, and I told myself I'm not going to do them until the body. So what did I start doing? I started saying, well, I'm not going to use my body as an excuse anymore. I'm going to start telling people I don't want to go. I'm going to start putting up boundaries and saying that doesn't feel good to me. I just don't want to go. I don't want to do it. I'm going to start eating in a way that's just like what feels nourishing to me right now. Even if my body never heals. It's not about trying to heal my body. I love my body just how it is right now. What feels nourishing? I'm not trying to fix it. Right? So it wasn't like a fuck it. It was okay, if this is my life, how do I fully take care of myself within the life that exists right now? And I started to learn to work with the chaos. And then, like I say, okay, well, I want to put myself out there. I've been saying that I want to be a blogger and I want to be an authority in the raw foods and I want to do all these things, so I'm just going to start doing it. Before my body changes. Maybe my body, like I said, never changes. But I know that I know things. I know that I've made things better. I know that I have had improvements. So I'm just going to talk from there. That's what I've got. And then, yes, my reality started to change. But it wasn't because I was proving to myself that I was actually worthy of love, or that I was safe, or that the world was set up for me. I made peace with the fact that the world wasn't set up for me. And there was always going to be challenge. And there was always going to be stuff that came my way that I didn't know what to do. And I knew that there were going to be things that I wanted that I was never going to have. That I was going to go for things and I was going to fail. So it became this balance of where can I meet my needs the way that I need them? Because that's the other thing. I let go of this idea that I'm going to transcend my needs. And that being needless would make me happy. Right? The get rid of your desires stuff. No. I'm always going to need food. I'm life. I want to live. My instincts to get my needs met are there because I have needs in order to grow. Like a rose is never going to stop needing sunlight. And it will suffer if it doesn't get sunlight because it wants to express its potential. So I embrace that. I am a human being having this human experience and I want to express myself. And I'm always going to feel miserable to some degree when that's being antagonized. And rather than making that a bad thing or saying like, that means I can't be happy, it's just that's a part of it. And that doesn't cancel out the transcended parts where I can see that I'm having a need that's not being met. I can see that I'm being antagonized. I can see that I have something that I want and I'm in pain and I'm suffering. And I can process that and I can be with that. And I can know that that's not all there is. That that's a temporary experience that I'm having, even if it's the temporary experience for the rest of my life. It's not everything. And that's what spirituality does. So it doesn't take me out of it. It doesn't make it so that I say, oh, I've transcended that and I don't need that anymore and I can just let that go. It's that I fully embrace it as part of my human life and know that that's not it. It's a period of time. I'll either figure it out or I won't. And ultimately, it's okay because I'm going to die at some point. And I'm not going to try to die. I'm going to live my whole life always seeking for that which supports my growth. I'm going to try to express myself and be fully myself, this little I that I am. But I'm going to hold it with an open palm, knowing that it could be taken from me at any time. That pain and pleasure, the roller coaster of pain and pleasure, I can witness it from above too. Like at the same time. I don't have to transcend. I can be fully in it and fully witnessing it. That these two things can exist at once. That I'm fully making myself safe internally. Understanding that there's no external safety. That I'm never going to be able to create an environment where I always have all of my needs met. That's never going to happen. I'm always going to be working with it, trying my best, learning from whatever. And maybe I'm going to get to a point where I learn the ultimate lesson of that wasn't it. You had too little of what you needed, too much antagonism, and it destroyed the physicality. And until then, I'm working with it. And I can say that I have managed to learn enough about myself and about the structure that I generally am much better and am more supported and am more at peace and have an external reality that suits me better than ever. Again, when we understand that secure attachment isn't going to come from, I promise, it's always going to be growth. When we're over-identifying with just our little human perspective, you're right. A fully secure attachment is never possible. We will never be able to find, you will always have your needs met in the physical reality. You, the little I, will always exist and be supported. That's never going to happen. So this is where spirituality that helps us to identify with something beyond this is so important. That's where the secure attachment comes from. That I am infinitely connected to all things. This life form of me may not live forever. But can I connect with that higher perspective that does live forever? The thing that animates everything. God, spirit, higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it. When you feel safe, when you feel loved, when you're in that different part of your brain, And this is why people get addicted to taking ayahuasca, and they get addicted to the Kundalini stuff, and they're addicted to the positive thinking and the Abraham Hicks and the getting whipped into those positivity frenzies. Because that's like the only time they ever experience something greater than the trauma of their little life. But we don't ever learn to integrate that into the little life. So then we're constantly bouncing between these two, like, well, that feels really good, but then my physical reality keeps pulling me down. And it's like, if we need to learn to balance them. How can you have that experience within this, knowing that this is always going to be chaos to a degree? That again, we can figure it out to a degree. We can get there to a degree. We can make it better to a degree. But it's never going to be heaven here in the outer. But it can be heaven in the inner when we understand that this isn't all there is. When we can connect to that. And what I'm saying is, from my experience, the thing that most directly connects us to that experience is internal safety. I'm going to be here with me and for me no matter what. We create that internal security of like, maybe we won't be able to figure it out. Maybe we won't be able to fix it. Maybe we won't be able to make it better, but I'm never going to abandon you. I'm never going to shame you and guilt you and make this your fault. You will always have access to my love, which is the thing we want. We want to feel loved. That security that we're looking for is that feeling of being loved. They've done studies of little monkeys who had 2 fake moms. And one was coated in fur but didn't have milk. And one was metal but produced milk. And the little monkeys, when given the choice between which one, the one that actually physically nourishes them or the one that has fur, they chose the fur one. Because again, we're so indoctrinated and conditioned that love equals provision. That when we feel like we have love, we trick ourselves into believing we're going to get provision. And then we feel safe. And then we expand. And then we feel connected to everything. It's in that state of safety that we have access to the greater, higher perspectives. So that's why I say it's the doorway. So then we can be in the states where we realize we're not going to get our needs met. But it's okay because we're connected. Or we're going to just do whatever we can right here, right now, in this moment. There is a little bit of power. We can do something. But it's just like I say, from my experience, the more I have made myself safe in the sense that I can show up for myself and love myself no matter what, the more I can be in the chaos of all of it and sort through what I can sort through and be okay when I can't. And be okay when I'm not okay, right? Like being able to just feel confused and feel upset and feel lost and feel hopeless sometimes and know that it's a wave, like to not get completely consumed by it because I'm always there on my own side, like it's okay. So the true core wound is that this world isn't safe for you. And the false beliefs and the traumas that you keep re-experiencing are the things you're telling yourself that if this is the thing that got fixed, I would feel the way that I want to feel. And we repeat and repeat and repeat because that's how your nervous system knows how to get your needs met right now. Because you're not conscious of your needs and you're not conscious of what you really want, or you're denying them, or you're telling yourself you shouldn't need what you want, you shouldn't need what you need, that you shouldn't feel what you feel. Spirituality has gaslit you into you shouldn't have needs, you shouldn't have wants, and these are all the things that are making you miserable. No. It's never going to be secure in that you will be guaranteed life in this form. But when you love yourself safe, you will be able to see a bigger perspective. And that will help you with your little you to do different things for your nervous system. What do I really want? If I were to let go of the dream of having that thing, what do I need right now? What do I want right now? And like, again, like within relationships, we're never going to be sovereign. We're never going to love ourselves enough that we never want or need external validation ever again. That's not going to happen. It's not about that. Sometimes we're going to be disappointed. We wanted external validation and we didn't get it. Can you love yourself when that happens? Sometimes we are going to have to just be there for ourselves because there is no one around. Sometimes there's going to be someone around who gives you that love and then you get it and it's great. Both experiences are fine. We learn to work with it. We just learn to, whatever is happening, how do I navigate this? That's what our spirituality should be about. It shouldn't be about trying to change reality to something that it isn't. It's, okay, this is the reality that it is, so where's my power within it? When I'm being loved by someone else, how can I appreciate that? When I'm being codependent with someone else, why? What's really going on? What's the need that I don't know how to express? How can I better understand myself? How can I better ask for it? How can I let them be an autonomous human being who doesn't have to meet that need for me? And how can I meet it in a different way if they can't? And how can it be okay when they do? And we just start to just be more human. We just say, okay, like this is just reality. We're not transcended. We just deal with what is. I have needs. Sometimes they get met. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes I know how to get them met. Sometimes I don't. And I'm just going to love myself and learn something from all of it. It's not about proving to myself that reality is different. It's figuring out just why reality is the way that it is. And then how can I do something different within it to make myself feel better than I've ever felt? And when I can't, I love myself safe. And when I can't do that, I make it safe that I can't do that. Just over and over again, you just learn to stop abandoning yourself. And see that that really is kind of it. And then life is just what it is. Sometimes you're going to feel transcended. Sometimes you're going to feel really, really in the muck. Sometimes you're going to make real, true change. Sometimes it's going to be a nervous system repeat. What did you learn? If you just make it about that, life is a grand adventure. If it's not about trying to find perfect pleasure and heaven and getting it right, and we just understand that sometimes it's going to be great and sometimes it's going to be terrible. But if we're learning from it all, and we're learning how to be there for ourselves a little bit more every day, we're learning how to accept love from the outside, where it is existing and how it exists. Maybe it's not how we want it to exist. Maybe it's not what we want it to be. But we take what we can get. And sometimes we ask for more. And sometimes we get it. And sometimes we don't. And then we give it to ourselves. It's just the chaos that exists. And we embrace the chaos. And we understand it as much as we can. And we work with it as much as we can. And then we accept what we can. And we love ourselves through it. That's what I think real spirituality is. The world is not set up for you, nor is it antagonizing you. It's a structure, and it's very complex, and it was happening way before you were born, and it's going to keep happening way after you die. But you're a part of it. So the better you know yourself, the better you know what you want and what you need. And the more you don't assume that's wrong, and you just say, how can I best nourish myself in this moment with what I know right now? Telling myself that it's okay that I need what I need, that I want what I want, that I don't have what I don't have, that I don't want what I don't want. I'm not going to blame myself. I'm not going to shame myself. I'm not going to abandon myself. Where's my power? That's it. And sometimes we're just going to be in pain, and sometimes we're just going to suffer, and sometimes we're going to be in joy, and it's going to be great. And can we just witness all of it and learn from all of it and not try to cling to any of it? Because none of it's permanent. Nothing's ever going to last. Except for your connection to love, which can last forever. And you have control over that. That's the thing you have control over. Okay? So we all have one core wound. The world isn't safe. And that's true. So what are we going to do with it? All the false beliefs. Tell yourself you're never going to get the thing. So now how do you nourish yourself? How do you show up for yourself? What do you really want? What do you really need? What would that thing have given you that you can start to give yourself now? And when it's not occurring in the reality, in the external reality, you're allowed to be upset that it's not. You're allowed to want it. And then when you don't abandon yourself for that, and you don't reject yourself, and you just let yourself have the pity party and whatever, eventually you're going to get to a place where you just say, okay, now what do I want to do about it? Can I go on with my life without it? Can I get it met in a different way? What are the other ways that I could meet those same needs? And we learn to nourish ourselves in the reality we have right now, and then we might manifest the thing we want. We might attract it. We might get it. And we'll be the person who can have it then. Because our nervous systems will be different, where we're knowing about our needs and our wants, and it's not so unconscious. We'll be able to actually get it and hold it instead of get it and be like, well, I don't know how to be this person, so abandon it. So let go of the thing that you think that you want, in the sense of trying to get that and saying, well, what's under that? What would that give me? What would I have? And how can I start to meet those needs now? In what ways can I give myself all that stuff? Okay? So I hope that made sense. I hope we can see that, right? It's not about trying to change your beliefs. It's about what do you need and what do you want? And how can you love yourself safe enough to start to meet those needs in ways that maybe don't align with what you want right now? But how does what you want show you what you really want and what you really need? And what's under that? What would you have if you had that thing? And that's going to be my next talk. Is that manifestation is really about becoming yourself. It's not really about the things that you think that you want. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Leave your questions, comments. I want to hear from you. And other than that, yeah. It's safe for you to fully love and accept yourself. Just as you are right here, right now. Within the chaos. Within your chaos. And your trauma and the stuff you don't understand. And all the pain that you've been through and everything that you want and everything you're attached to. What if you were to just love that right now and to stop trying to escape it? Let it be. Stop making yourself wrong. And know that it's just, what can I learn from this? How can I be my own safe place? And what can I learn from this? If we start to make that our worldview, versus how do I perfect myself? How do I get spiritual? How do I do the right thing? Where am I right now? What do I really want? What can I learn from this? How can I support myself? How can I accept the support that does exist, that maybe is not in the way that I want it to exist, but it's as much as there is right now? How can I start to love my nervous system safe enough that I can do new things and learn something new? Because life is always going to be chaos. So just what can I learn? All right, let's stick with that. Okay. I love you. I'll see you next week. And until then, have a beautiful day, have a beautiful night, have a beautiful week. Mwah.